The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first webinar in our Future of Rail series. My name is Katrina Handley, and I am the Director of Rail Live at Terrapinn. Rail Live was, of course, meant to be taking place in Madrid this week, today in fact, but due to obvious reasons, we have postponed the event to November. In the meantime, we are really excited about this webinar series as an opportunity to connect with our international audience and continue the discussions around the development of the rail industry. So the webinar series will focus on key themes and topics in the industry, and today's webinar is run in conjunction with our partners at GS1 and will focus on the digital transformation of rail maintenance using interconnected traceability. I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Firstly, we have Diana de Bernardet, who is the environmental engineer and is responsible for industry engagement and the deployment of GS1 standards in industrial sectors, including rail, aviation, and maritime in France. And joining her is Charles-Francois Vermiche, who is in charge of the GS1 standard deployment at SNCF Voyages. We want to make this as engaging as possible, so at any time during the presentation you can submit a question which our speakers will answer at the end of their presentation. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Diana to take over.
Thank you, Katriana. Good afternoon, everyone. I am very happy, pleased to open this series real life webinars. I welcome you to this thing that is organized by Terrapinn, and thank you for joining during this particular time.
Good afternoon.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, Diana.
Good afternoon, Charles-Francois. Thank you for being here, and thank you for spending these minutes, almost an hour together. So this webinar, as Katriana said, is going to be about digital transformation of maintenance in rail using interconnected traceability. It's a very large topic, but we are going to focus on mainly on how can this happen thanks to standardization. So, Charles-Francois, just a second because I cannot change my, okay, now. Why is the rail industry implementing digital transformation? Well, at the same time, which sector wouldn't be concerned about this topic?
True, all industries are concerned, but first of all, let me tell you a long story shortly.
Okay.
Oh, no. Just before. Yes.
Good.
Today, rail traceability looks like this. These are real parts and components identification. This is not a joke. In the railway industry, lots of components and parts have to be identified and followed through their life cycle. It should be like their passport number.
So the situation is that everyone identify their own material at the very beginning using their own identifiers.
Yes, exactly. Here is where the role of the maintenance is about. Operators all around the world, we need to provide on-time and good service to our clients. To be able to do that, we need our rolling stock to be properly maintained, as well as the infrastructure. At SNCF, for instance, we have workshops and warehouses all over France. Our teams are maintaining and repairing our own rolling stock fleets and for other operators too. And this is the same case in other countries. So You can imagine how the lack of standardization leads to lots of issues and difficulties. Unfortunately, we still use pen and paper for some technical procedures.
Wow.
Such as manual entry errors. All these have an impact on the supply chain, on the safety management, on the data reliability. So, why are we so interested on the digital transformation, but also on standardization? Because we need to enable within automation. We need to enable easy access and sharing data. We want to facilitate interoperability, to simplify operating procedures. We need to improve operational efficiency and to improve quality and accuracy during the life cycle.
Yes, I totally agree. So what do you need and how are you planning to do all this?
Good question. We need to communicate and speak the same language. We need harmonization between all actors, maintainers, car builders, suppliers, and operators. By the way, I give credit to SBB for this nice picture that we use every day. Thanks, Dominique.
Yeah, Dominique Halbazen, it's a very good ambassador of GS1. So good to know, Jean-Francois. This is how can GS1 can help.
Yes, Diana. Could you tell everyone more about GS1?
Yes, it's time to talk about GS1. It's a very on the side, so you can realize if you don't know GS1, you can have some hinters about. GS1 is a global organization, a global standardization organization. It's a neutral and a non-for-profit. We are founded by companies and we serve companies. We cover more or less 150 countries with 114 member organizations. There is a GS1 UK, there is a GS1 Spain, a GS1 France, of course, GS1 Canada, GS1 Australia, GS1 Argentina, and so on in 114 countries. So everyone knows Google, I guess. Google statistics show, and I Googled that last night, show that there are 3.5 billion search per day. Well, GS1 is less known, but in average, there are 66 billion GS1 barcodes scanned per day. We are really everywhere when you go to the supermarket, in the point of sale you pass the barcode, it's a GS1 code. There are more than 2 million member companies all over the world. And as an example, in France, we have more than 44,000 member companies. These make us, at the same time, international and local. Our standards are validated and are promoted internationally, but we apply them and we use them locally to answer to the business needs. We operate only by collaboration. This is something very important to keep in mind. And we are proud to put around the table the stakeholders, competitors, clients, suppliers, to agree on a common language for the benefit of all. So so now the foundation of the GS1 system. I like this. This is an image that can be a little bit tough, but you see here we have 3 pillars: identify, capture, and share. So GS1 promise is to guarantee the unicity of the codes. It means that no matter which of the 114 GS1 agencies where you become member, the identification key will give you efficient access to information about items in the supply chain and will identify you all over the world with a unique number. You can share this information with your trading partners and they will know in China or in Turkey or in Chile that it's about you. That is our promise. Companies can uniquely identify products, identify parts, equipment, documents, physical locations, and more. So coming to the second pillar, which is the capture, there are two main ways to encode information, standardized by GS1. There are, in one side, the barcodes, what you see from here to here. The barcodes, it can be this one that you can find in the fast move consumer good products. This one is more common. Where is my? This one is more common for logistics. This one is definitely very common in logistics. GS1 data metrics, it can be used on different sectors such as healthcare for medical devices, and the GS1 QR code, which is also used for many different topics. This GS1 data bar is used for fresh food. It's every of these codes are standardized GS1, and they have the special ways to be used depending on the business needs. These all are data carriers, and they are used to encode information such as product number, serial numbers, enabling stakeholders to automatically identify and track products as they move through the supply chain. So we have also this part of RFID, which Jean-François is going to talk a little bit more later, specifically for the rail industry. So we have the third pillar, which is share. It's the share are these standards for exchange of business critical information, let's say. We can distinguish three main types of exchange of data. The first one is master data. Master data is it's all about product information and information that is meant to be static, that you don't change every time. That is essential to know about the general attributes of the products. Then we have transactional data, which are the EDI messages, electronic data interchange. These allow automation of business transactions, such as a command or an invoice or this type of messages that are one-to-one and that have a specific structure to go fast and to speak the same language. And we, last but not least, we have event and visibility event data. We can say this is the standard for traceability. It is the exchange of dynamic data. For this, we master data, which is static data, and then we have here dynamic data. It is all about information that enables trading partners to share information about the physical movement and the status of products. It helps to answer the what, the where, or when, and why the product is here or there. Is that clear? Jean-François, tell me.
Yeah.
Is good? Is clear enough?
Yes.
So your turn.
Yes. You may ask yourself why GS1 and not another standard, no? We evaluated with Alstom, with SBB, with SNCF and others existing standards, and after all this research, GS1 appears to be the most appropriate standard to apply for many reasons. First one, it's an already existing standard that is implemented in many sectors today. Secondly, it's a multi-sectorial standard that we already use for objects and products. And last, GS1 showed to be ready to take this challenge with us.
Yes, we were actually. I would like to add that GS1 is a complementary standard to many ISO standards, to many CEN standards, and we usually work together to provide the how to comply to those other standards that focus on the what. So we wanted to share with you a video. We're going to share our presentation. You can go to get this link and you can check it yourself. It's a short video that you can watch later. It's 4 minutes. And it's all about how GS1 keep rail companies on track. So, Jean-François.
Yes. So now let's look deeply on how the railway industry is adopting GS1. I give here the example of SNCF, but this applies for other operators too. First, we said our own material. How can we harmonize identification? Here on the left, using GS1 identification keys to easily serialize key safety parts, and we upgrade our information system to include GS1 codes. Secondly, we continue to work on vehicles identification with RFID tags. This work is an important link between rolling stock and infrastructure. And last but not least, with the agreement of our high management, we decided to include GS1 to technical specifications and requirements for new projects.
This is from the operations point of view. And it is important to highlight that all these decisions related to the be compliant to the standard are also agreed with and by the stakeholders that are involved. Remember that we are collaborative and inclusive. We actually have specific rules to to run a group, and we need representation of the sector. If we don't have representation of the sector, we won't be able to open a new sector on GS1. So go ahead.
No. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. Concretely, how are we doing? That's the question. First, yes, if you can go.
I can, yeah. Sure, sorry.
Thank you.
Up.
First question, which type of label? The idea is to choose the material that can answer to our business need. For this, we work closely with labels and RFID suppliers. We benchmark companies that are already using RFID to benefit from their feedback. And we also had fun making real-life tests to deploy GS1 step by step. Sorry.
I'm sure you had fun.
Yes. Next.
Up. Sorry for that. Up.
Yes, thank you.
Please.
To identify our parts, we choose to use these types of labels with human readable information, with GS1 data matrix, and a RFID tag too. This solution allows to read this GS1 code with smartphone, tablet, or RFID reader, depending on which reading tool we have. The most important here that whatever the technology is to guarantee interoperability in our information system. I know I have a very strong accent. I'm very sorry, but I try to go slow. Thank you. Now we are collecting interesting use cases for several reasons. First, some parts are not yet identified with a serial number for which we have no traceability today. However, they need to be repaired sometimes, and it's necessary to keep the history. Instead of using a random number, we use now a GS1 code. It's the case of polyester parts or windows, for example. Then we have many problems on brakes components for which we have duplication, manual entry errors. Therefore, we must control perfectly the configuration of the trains. The GS1 code allows to standardize the identification and to automate the process.
Great.
And now, all departments of rolling stock are concerned by this project. In 2019, we won a lot of victories from my perspective. We hope to continue in the same way this year. The objective is to identify 500 parts reference. It means about 30,000 serialized parts or individuals by the end of the year. It's a big challenge.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's really impressive. Please, I say just want to remind the audience, the participants, to write down your questions on the chat just below, so we can answer to them at the end of the presentation. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts or to ask us questions at the time you have them in mind. I will manage to answer if we have time enough to all your questions. So now we're going to the to this other topic. You told us you were deploying GS1 standards on MRO. This is very interesting. That's yeah, but you know there is an European standard about vehicle identification in the process of being published. Is the standard that is the result of several years of work between SBB, SNCF, DB, OBB, all these operators, and of course GS1 supporting them as well.
Yes, of course. I know it. I like it and we use it to guarantee the interoperability between all the operators and to facilitate the link between the infrastructure and the rolling stock. We just have to apply the standards. Everything is written. The tag location on the vehicle, the data on the tag, and the technical performances of this tag.
Have you ever deployed RFIDs on your tags on your vehicles?
Yes. We began to deploy tags in 2012 on wagons, and it was already conformed to the standards. Then SNCF deployed several wayside monitoring systems for a predictive maintenance. These benches need to identify the vehicle number without risk of error when the train runs up to 70 kilometers per hour. Today, RFID tags have been deployed on about 16,500 trains and will continue for the next years. Diana, do you have numbers about the status of GS1 deployment in other countries, especially on vehicles?
Yeah, sure I do. Operation perspective, for instance, all Switzerland fleet is identified with GS1 keys and RFID tags, of course. They are always the best in class. We have also Germany that DB is at 30,000 vehicles. Unfortunately, I don't know how big is their fleet, but 30,000 is pretty impressive. Then we have Sweden with 6,000 vehicles. Here is a little complexity because they have 10 different operators in the territory, in the country, and it's a complexity, but at the same time, it's a good reason to move to standardization. We have also Austria with 100 of trains that have already been tagged and identified with identification keys. We have Thalys with 26 trains. And outside of Europe, global office of GS1, the central organization of GS1 is following also their deployment, and as far as I know, they are at 12,000 vehicles, and their target is to identify 330,000 vehicles. So, yeah, it's a pretty. These are the numbers I have. We still have a challenge. We invite other operators in Europe to follow this, and happy to see what's next. So more information about the rail industry. I have these figures. So Europe is leading the standardization initiative, as opposed to other countries, other continents in the world, like America or Asia, but also India with less visibility, but from its side of the planet, Australia started the deployment of GS1 5 years ago. They have the full support of the Australasian Railway Association with a project called Project iTrace. Maybe there are some actors on the railway industry there that doesn't really know GS1 Australia, but they definitely know Project iTrace. Their implementation roadmap is very impressive, and they started this project 5 years ago with a specific demand of the infrastructure. It was an infrastructure need, and now they are moving to rolling stock. But in Europe, we mostly we started mostly on the rolling stock side, better pronunciation, Jean-François, you can tell. And we are now moving to infrastructure because it's a very complementary standard covered by the two parts of the operator's point of view. What else? In France, how does this happen? We started by raising awareness. The first victory, as you said, Jean-François, it was to have SNCF that was convinced, and you were convinced at the time of October 2017. So we organized a conference where there was SNCF, Alstom, and GS1 to give information, to explain the business, to explain the technical needs, and all the issues that could be solved by harmonizing procedures and by talking together at the first step. It happened at the GS1 France facilities in the center of Paris, and we were happy to have 100 people, around 100 people coming, and they were representing railway companies. After that event, in parallel of the deployment of GS1 inside SNCF, we started to set up operational workshops. So on just as a matter of interest, on 2019, we had 4 workshops in it was SNCF and RATP. So RATP is the French operator of metro, tramway, and bus, the ones who operates Paris public transportation, and they host those workshops. Sometimes SNCF, sometimes RATP, and this is a photo of that we took during the workshop, the last workshop of the year at the RATP facilities in the south of Paris. You can see Jean-François here presenting the same figure of SBB. We like that figure, I see.
Yes. And this is something I appreciate the most of the collaboration with GS1. We are very happy to sit around the table, companies that never talk about this type of issues and topics. It's very interesting.
Yeah, this is I guess this is something new for the industry. So coming to the continuous of raising awareness. Sorry, we organized another information conference in May 2019, and it was a big success too. We had more than 120 people, and with much more real use cases, with more feedback, with more questions. Sorry. Sorry. So this was very important for us to keep the suppliers, to keep all the people that were not aware of our work, to keep informed and to be able to answer questions and to collaborate. So this is also very important for us because it shows that there is adoption. The digital transformation on the rail industry is also supported by the government, and you can say here that there is something called Conseil National de l'Industrie, which is the General Council of Industry, which is very close, and it's a branch of the Minister of Economy and Finance, just to make it shortly. This GS1 approach fits into one of the 3 strategic axes of the rail sector for the digital transformation. So I'm going to list the 3 strategic axes. The first is industrialization and deployment of the digital platform for supply chain. There is the second one, which is unique identification of parts and equipment, which is using GS1 keys. How are we answering to this access, and the digital management of document flows. So this is something that is important for us. I mean the sector, the industry itself, is that we have the support of the governance of the government, and of course the high management of the industries are convinced about this approach. So I think it's your turn. Yep.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, to finish our presentation, we would like to share with you the challenges for the next years. First, we have to choose the labels adapted to our need with all the technical issues. Secondly, it's necessary to share the strategy in all our departments, engineering, supply chain, information systems, and with all the suppliers in the railway industry. Then, to be used as much as possible, each company has to integrate this standard in its information system. At least,
This is challenge. This is challenging.
yes, this is a big challenge. And at least we know that this standardization process won't going to happen overnight. That's why we are working on transition scenarios. So to conclude, we are going to write a page in the history of the railway industry.
Wow, Jean-François, this is a very strong commitment. We are going to write a page in the history of the railway industry. Please record this. I am happy to be remembered by this 30 years after. Okay. Thank you very much, Jean-François. Thank you, everyone, for following this webinar. So do you have any questions? Let me check the chat. Well, no questions. Should we give some minutes?
I can see some questions. Maybe it's only visible for me. So I can ask them for you.
They're not
So the first one comes from Yves.
Okay, we'll check.
Yves Reboul, and he asks, what about the use of the fourth pillar of the GS1 standards?
The fourth pillar of GS1 standards, you mean the use?
Yes, the application.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the application identifiers. Well, I think it's a very specific question for generalities about GS1, but of course it's all about visibility. And if Yves want to know more about GS1, please write my email and we will discuss about the fourth pillar. It's true that I always mentioned the three main ones because the fourth one it's a link to the third. So yeah, I think we can move to maybe more specifically questions regarding the rail industry.
Sure. So the next question comes from Julio Gomez Pomar, and he asks for a bit more information about the freight sector. So do you know what the state of the art in the implementation of GS1 tech in freight?
Charles-François, what can you say about freight, about the freight part of the railway industry? Is there some test going on to identify wagons or vehicles?
I don't know. I think these RFID tags, which are mounted on wagons, are used to. How do you say it in English?
Say it in French.
Bulletin de freinage.
For the frames, for the brackets? No, well, not brackets. To the
the brake.
Yeah, brakes for brakes.
Brakes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is definitely a standard that can be applied also for the railway, for cargo, for the freight. So yeah.
Okay. The next question comes from Andy Billington, and he has asked how the vehicle identification is managed. Is it the tag reader, the IAM and tag? Is it the operator's responsibility?
Can you say again the question, please?
Yeah. How is the vehicle identification managed? Is it the tag reader? And is it the responsibility of the operator to manage that?
So that's just I'm going to start the answer, and you can complete, Jean-François, if it's okay for you. So the standard ISO standard and GS1 standard says the EN standard and the ISO standard said and GS1 standard said that you have to have the EVN number inside the code. So it's the European vehicle number. It is inside a GS1 identification key, and it is placed in each vehicle twice, in the front and in the back. And it's of course the operator, because it's an asset of the operator, to tag it, to label, to identify their own fleet. You want to complete, Jean-François?
Exactly. No, I think it's okay.
Okay, fantastic. So the next question comes from Javier Moreno from the EIM. He says the European Railway Agency is going to start a topical working group on freight, and one of their priorities in the scope defined is to work on RFID solutions and improve the provisions to allow for the use of automatic identification. Will GS1 be involved in this workstream? Is there any obligation for RUs to go for the GS1 implementation, or is it up for each RU to decide on which solution to implement?
Well, I cannot say what it has to be done, but if I can suggest is as at the beginning of this thing together, we definitely well, I think that you don't want to rewrite everything from zero. You can inspire yourself from what is already done. And of course, we want to participate. We can participate. It's our role. And the more a standard is used in a sector, the better it's going to work for everyone, and you will find lots of application afterwards, because it starts from the very beginning by speaking the same language. So of course, I'm happy to know more and to participate on this European working group. Please write my email, and I will let know my colleagues, and we can participate, of course.
Okay, fantastic. So the next question comes from Frederick Jan Korsman, and he asks, what is the future of tagging? Is it RFID or will IoT help?
So can you ask the question again?
What is the future of tagging? RFID exists, will IoT help?
RFID is complementary to IoT. I will say that is one of the possibilities we have on IoT is RFID. I can but it is not completely included. If I can say, it's IoT. It has specifications where RFID is not there, but if I can say, RFID can answer to the communications of objects, and we have an example of what Jean-François mentioned before, of the communication between the rolling stock and the infrastructure, where you can have sensors that share the information, where the information can be shared between the rolling stock and the infrastructure. So it's going to be actually the topic of the next webinar. And in June, my colleague from Global Office is going to talk more about this with SBB. But yeah, it's very complementary.
Fantastic. So the next question comes from Tom Tamar, and he asks, how does traceability improve maintenance processes? Is there any evidence or example for better understanding? And can the ID be linked to an existing MMS system?
Well, this is a very long question. So the first one, can you repeat the first one? I will go little by little.
Of course. So how does traceability improve maintenance processes?
Jean-François, do you want to answer? Okay, I will. So traceability includes maintenance processes because in the workshops, once you get the first step, which is identification of parts and components in the same way, you can develop applications where you can just have in the tag, in the label, and the identifier. You scan this and you go to a database where you are able to know the history of the part, what happened, and why. And then once you get all this information that is collected, then you can analyze it. But if you don't have this first step where you can stock and have the history and know the traceability, the track and the trace of part and component, this is not possible to analyze things and to evaluate the tendencies and to say this type of machine, of part, answered this way to the pressure that we're putting. I don't know. The examples are multiple. You want to formulate the second question?
Yeah, the second part of the question was, can the ID be linked to an existing MMS system?
Oh, to existing. Well, this is something that could be managed on the database. I know that without making any promotion of the solution provider or of the GMO, MOO, the system you have, the IT system that you have, but there are few that can make the link between an internal identifier with the one that is given in the further process with a GS1, for instance, and you can have the link together. Yes, it's also obviously possible, but it's of course a period of transition. It's only a transition period between the old way of identify and the new way to identify. So it's more easy to manage afterwards. The third part of the question.
So I think that was the full question. So the next question comes from Ruben Garcia from Harting, Iberia, and he has asked about the implementation of other subsystems apart from rolling stock. So he's mentioning infrastructure, stations, maintenance yards, not only trains but locomotives and metros. So yeah, maybe some insight on that.
Well, it's with GS1 information, with GS1 identification keys, you can go very far away by identification. I also give credit to SBB because they are applying GS1 even for the reservation of the meeting rooms. So it's not only about parts and components. You can go very far away with identification keys using GS1, and is definitely very powerful because you will have the same structure and the same language to manage all your supply chain.
Fantastic.
And it allows real-time monitoring of operations and including predictive maintenance and IoT. And we have examples are multiple. Please come back to me if you have any question. I will share it with my colleagues that can give more examples.
Fantastic. And the last question comes from Thomas Kubicek, and he has asked, are you able to provide any measurable results that the digitization has brought so far, and how do you measure its impact?
Can you say again the question, please?
Yeah, of course. So are you able to provide any measurable results that the digitization has brought so far, and how do you evaluate its impact?
Of course, we have KPIs. Jean-François, can you give some KPIs that you definitely manage every day? Can you
It's
share?
difficult to answer this question.
But you measure that every day.
Yes. We can follow each day how many GS1 code are deployed on our parts, and with which technology, with TAC, with supplier, and this is
maybe it's too early to communicate, huh?
yes.
But of course, this is something that every company have track to be able to evaluate the success and to move forward. Yeah, for sure.
And finally, it's just the beginning of the story today.
Yeah, we're at the beginning of the story. We have a lot to go.
Okay, maybe we can do another webinar in a few months and share the developments. Well, thank you very much, Diana and Charles Francois. That's been a really insightful webinar. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Thank you.
We will make this available for download probably tomorrow. So do look out for that in your emails if you want to look back on any of the information covered today. Just to let you know that we also have 2 more webinars already scheduled in this webinar series. Next week, Julio Gomez Pomar, who is chairman of the IE Business School, will be discussing Mobility 4.0, building a sustainable and intelligent mobility ecosystem. That will take place next Thursday, 9th of April at 3 p.m. UK time or 4 p.m. CET. And then on the 23rd of April, CAF Group will be leading a webinar session focused on lead mind LCC reduction through reliable data and engineering expertise. You can sign up to these webinars on the Rail Live website, and if you are interested in potentially leading your own webinar, please do get in touch. My contact details are on the Rail Live webinar, on the Rail Live website, or you can email me at katrina.handley@terrapinn.com. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to having you join us for future webinars as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.